Hi everybody, and welcome to our first American Girl afternoon here at Castle Shannon Library. And hello to anybody that is joining us from all the other libraries in the county, because this program we're doing along with the Allegheny County Library Association for fall programming. So welcome to anybody from anywhere that is joining us today. For our first American Girl afternoon, and as you can tell, I'm very excited about this, we are going to be making blankets for our dolls, and they're called tie blankets. And they're called that because you cut little strips out of the fabric and you tie them into knots, and that's what makes the outside of your blanket. So they're called blankets, but they're really more like sleeping bags because you have a back side and an inside, and then you have this front part. It's very hard to show on camera because it's longer than the area where the camera is. But you also have this front part that's kind of like a pouch where the doll can go in. So this would be like the front blanket, like the blanket part that you would pull over yourself when you're sleeping at night. So these are really more like sleeping bags, even though they were called tie blankets. So I'm gonna read to you in words and numbers what you need to make these. However, we do have make and take kits available at Castle Shannon Library in the make and take box, in the gazebo or the lobby if it's raining today, so that you can come and get. And then the only things you will need are the kit and a pair of scissors to make this project. But if you cannot get over here and you have these things lying around your house, or you're willing to buy them and have them sent to your house, you don't even need a kit. You can do these at home. So these are the things that you need to make this project. You need fabric or fleece. It can be all one color or pattern. It can be different patterns. You'll notice that the inside of mine and then the outsides are two different kinds of fleece. And that's what the kits will be. They're the same fabric as what I have, but you don't have to use that. I used fleece because that's what the craft instructions that I found so that I could do this the first time. That's what it recommended. It's nice and soft, but if you only have regular fabric, like cotton fabric, you can absolutely do that for this project as well. But when you cut it, cotton fabric rips easier than fleece. When you pull on it and you try to rip it, if there's a cut in it, the fleece is harder to rip. Fabric is easier to rip, so when you make a cut and you're trying to make your tie, you might end up ripping your fabric more. So that is why they recommend, and I recommend, you use fleece. But if you don't have it, you surely can use regular fabric to try this project. So fabric or fleece, a measuring tape or a ruler. I used a ruler when I made mine. I think a measuring tape would have been easier. A measuring tape is like a long ruler, but it's flexy and it's bendy, and they use it when they make clothes or they hem clothes, or anytime you're doing like a sewing project, you normally use a measuring tape because you can put it around things. You can make it longer because most measuring tapes are normally a couple of feet long, whereas a ruler is only 12 inches, 1 foot. So you can measure things that are way longer with a measuring tape than you can with a ruler. But if you don't have a measuring tape, you can use a ruler, because I used a ruler for this. You just have to mark your spot a couple of times to make sure that you're measuring correctly. And you'll find out a little later, measuring is not my thing. So fabric or fleece, measuring tape or ruler, and the last thing is scissors. You will need scissors whether you do this project with the make and take kit that you get from us, or whether you do this at home by yourself. Either way, you will need scissors. If you picked up the make and take kit, scissors will be the only other thing you need. And here are the dimensions. Now these are written down in the blog post that goes with this video. So if you don't hear what I'm saying, don't worry. It is written down, and it is also written on the instructions in the make and take kits. Even though the fabric is cut for you, if you would ever want to do this again, the dimensions are there and they're written down for you. So you will need 2 pieces of fabric or fleece that are 26 inches long by 18 inches wide. So 26 inches one way, 18 inches another way. That's why it's easier to use a measuring tape, because a measuring tape can go up to 26 inches. A ruler only goes up to 12. So that's 2 pieces of fabric, 26 inches by 18 inches. Those will be your back piece and then your inside piece. Those are the 2 longer pieces of fabric. Then you need 1 piece of fabric that is 20 inches by 18 inches. And the 20 inches by 18 inches piece is what goes on the front. So those are the dimensions for your fabric. And then what you do, you have to cut all 3 pieces out, and then you layer them, you lay them down. So I had a time-lapse video of when I made mine, and it was really hard to see how everything was laid out because the fabric is longer than the camera lens. So you probably have a hard time seeing what I'm doing. So what you do is you layer one of the big pieces, the other big piece, and then the shorter piece, the one that's 20 inches, that's the order they go in. 1 26 piece, 1 26 piece, and then the 20 piece. And you lay them on top of each other so that the corners match up. So it's kind of like when you have a couple pieces of paper, you don't want them to be like this. You don't want them to be all over the place. You want their ends and their corners to match up. So that's how you want your fabric to lay. Only 2 of the 4 corners all 3 of them are going to be layered together because one piece is shorter, right? So the front piece, your bottom 2 corners are going to line up with the long pieces. Your short one isn't going to go all the way to the top. That's okay. That's what you want. That's actually how you want it to work. So after you do that, you then have to cut out squares from all 4 corners. And if you get a make and take kit with the fabric, that's already been done for you, so you don't have to worry about this part. But if you are doing this at home and you don't get the pre-cut fabric from us, this is what you have to cut out of all 4 corners. You need to cut a 3.5, so 3.5 by 3.5, 3.5 inch square out of each corner. So it'll be 3.5 inches long, 3.5 inches wide. I did that backwards. 3.5 inches long, 3.5 inches wide. Because squares, their sides are all equal. So 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches in all 4 corners. And you'll measure that, and then you'll cut them out. And so it'll have little notches in all 4 corners. Then this is the part that you can do if you got a make and take kit. We've taken you up to this point. This is the part where you get to start. So now that you'll have, a notch cut out of the corner up here and a notch here, and then on the bottom you'll have a notch here and a notch here. The first thing you're gonna do is take your short piece and you're going to roll it down twice, like you are rolling maybe the bottoms of your shorts. Sometimes you'll roll those up, or if you're tucking a shirt that's too long, if you roll it under twice, that is what you're gonna do. You're gonna roll the top over twice so you have this little fold right here. So that is the first thing you do. Remember, they're all layered together. Big piece, small piece, and then you roll it over. After that, you are going to start on any side. It doesn't matter what side you start on, and you're going to cut strips in the side of all the layers of fabric that are about 1 inch long. I didn't do that. I'm a very bad measurer. I measured with a ruler. I marked my spot. I measured more than once, and my pieces of fabric still came out at different sizes. I don't know how it happened. I don't know how it happens. This happens to me all the time. Anytime I have to measure something, it's why I'm not a fashion designer. It is why I'm not in construction or anything at all that requires you to be good at measuring for a living. So my pieces of fabric still came out different sizes, but the project still worked. So even if yours are different sizes or something, your project is still going to work. Your doll is still going to fit, because I tried this out on Samantha upstairs and it's bigger than she is, which is good. So she fits. It's okay if it's bigger, you just don't want it to be smaller. So it doesn't matter what side you start on, you want to try to cut 1-inch strips. I did not measure my strips because I knew that even if I measured them, and even if I measured 1 inch the whole way around this project, they would still come out to be different sizes. So I just cut strips that looked somewhat even and somewhat good, and I did it all the way around the thing. And then once you're done, you'll have ones, your strips will be like this. So if it's down here where you have 3 layers, there'll be 3 layers of fabric. If it's up top where there was only 2, you'll have 2 pieces of fabric. And all you do is you take one side and the other side and you make a knot like you're tying your shoes. And you have the tie right on there. And you are going to do that around the entire blanket so that it looks like this. Some of yours might come out looking a little more square if you cut your strips more evenly than I did. Mine came out kind of rounded because of the way that I cut it, and I actually kind of like that. I think it looks cool. So it doesn't matter if yours looks rounded or if it looks more like a rectangle at the top, as long as all the strips are tied, and as long as your doll fits inside of it, that is really all that matters. So that is really all that there is. Oop, look at that. 2 of my ties came undone. So anyway, that is all that there is to this project. It's a little bit time consuming if you do it at home and you don't just get the fabric, because it probably took me 15 or 20 minutes just to measure and cut the fabric. Now that could also just be because I'm not good at measuring, but I think the thing that took the longest was measuring and cutting the fabric and then cutting the squares out of it. The cutting the strips and tying it maybe took 10 minutes, maybe at the most. It probably didn't even take that long. But the measuring of the initial pieces and the cutting out of those squares, I would say, is what took me the longest. So if you get a make and take kit, this project will probably only take you 10 minutes. If you do it at home from scratch, it might take you more like a half an hour, 45 minutes. Still fun though, and super worth it if you have a doll. Now, you don't have to just use an American Girl doll for this. It's called American Girl Afternoon. Yes, we're doing this with American Girl dolls, but if you have any kind of baby doll, if you have a bitty baby and not a big American Girl doll, if you have one of the Welly Wishers dolls, although they might be kind of small to fit in here, if you have any other kind of baby doll at your house, or even a stuffed animal, you could make this for them, and they will probably, almost anything, stuffed animal or doll, will probably fit in here. If you don't have a doll or a stuffed animal, and you don't have an American Girl, but you still think this project sounds fun and you want to do it, you could donate your blanket/sleeping bag to your local library, whether it be us at Castle Shannon or wherever your local library is, for their American Girl dolls. And if you tell us here, especially, we have 3, we have Samantha, Mary Ellen, and Kit, and if you tell us which doll you want your blanket to go with, we will put it in her kit. And when those kits start going back out and they can circulate and people can check them out again and the dolls can go home and have fun at your houses, your blanket will go along with the doll and will live in her kit and will stay there for as long as it can. So that is an option if you would like to do this, but you don't have something at home to make it for. So we hope you enjoyed American Girl Afternoon. I had fun with it, and I hope that we're going to have it again. I'm going to try to put more on the schedule. We hope that your school year is going great, and we can't wait to see you back at the library soon. Have a great day.